YouTube. Hey, so part 2 of the battle of the 80-pound bows. You've seen us go through 4 bows already. We've got 4 more to go through. If you haven't seen part 1, you need to go back, watch that video, and then start on part 2. Now, just one thing. If you want to see the results, I put all of the results. I know it's kind of hard to follow through and put all the numbers and compare the bow speeds. So I put together a spreadsheet, and at the end, the very end, if you'll stick around and watch that, I'll put up that spreadsheet to show you the comparison of the speeds. Now that's just the speeds. You'll hear us talk about our opinions when we shoot each bow. So pay attention to that too. Watching back through that first video after we posted it, I really like the way that Josh explained our opinions about shooting 80-pound bows. So yeah, good stuff. If you like this kind of thing, if this is the kind of thing you like to see on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. And like I said, stick around for the very end. You'll see the results, and maybe I'll do a little bit of wrap up at the end too. All right, so enjoy. Oh yeah. All right. All right, so next up, this is our Matthews Frankenbow. Both Josh and I put these together. If you look back through our content, you'll see when we start brainstorming and talking about what the heck is a Travertix accuracy test with the Matthews Frankenbow. So this is a Traverse with the switch weight cams on it. As I weighed this bow today with the setup that it has, now granted it's got a little bit heavier stabilizers, but this one came in at 8 pounds with its current configuration. The draw cycle, or the pull, was 82.2 pounds. So that's what she looks like, the Matthews Frankenbow, or the Travertix, or the VXR33, whichever one you want to call it. So this bow has a nice, if you've ever shot a Matthews, it's got a nice draw cycle. It starts stiff at first and just kind of eases right back into the valley. What else did we say about this? This bow, as far as the hold and shootability, like I said, drops right back into that valley. And the shot, it's quiet. It's pretty motionless. No hand shock or vibration when you shoot it. Like I've said before, in its current configuration, this bow we've shot at long distance quite often. And when I talk about long distance, we regularly, at least 2 or 3 times a week, before our hunting season, we would shoot at least 100 to 120 yards. And that's the reason why I chose this bow to hunt with, is the way that it holds. It seems like once you get that pin right where you want it, it just holds nice and steady. I found myself shooting far better, far smaller groups with this bow than the other bows that I was considering taking out to the elk woods. And don't get me wrong, you spend enough time with any bow, you should be able to hold, and you get used to the way that the weight of the bow, the heft of the bow. However, like I said, this is a full pound heavier than pretty much all my other 80-pound setups. And a full pound is a full pound when you're carrying a 70-pound pack. So both Josh and I, we need to work on our packing list for our hunting trips, and maybe a different setup for heading off into the woods. So we'll see. So that's the Matthews Frankenbow.
You know, we got the PSE Stealth Mach 1. So this is my response to our last experience with the backcountry hunting. And this thing's coming in the way I've got it set up, just like the other two, the other bows that I've got here that we're reviewing. No arrows and stabilizer, but everything else. Comes in at 6 pounds. So we're talking a full pound less than the other bows. So overall weight, it's doing real well. Now, there are some drawbacks to having less weight. So that's something to be aware of. Draw cycle. This one's a little stiff to pull. I've shot this bow quite a bit. It's kind of stiff in the beginning, lightens up in the middle, and then it humps right at the end. And it definitely feels like an 80-pound pull, and you feel it right there before it dumps into the wall. Back wall is relatively firm. There's a little bit of give. You can see I'm shooting the Silverback Plus with this one as well. So it is favorable to those resistance releases. Hold. The hold with this bow, it likes to stay. It likes to stay right there. The hold is good for a light bow. It does move around a little bit. I'll say that. Not real bad, but for a lighter bow, it's got a decent hold. As far as tunability, it's very tunable. You can shim the cams on this. You can adjust the cable guard, and you do get some responsiveness out of that. So it is tunable. And shootability for this bow, for an 80-pound bow that's 32 axle to axle, I'm finding that it is shootable. In windy conditions with the lighter bow, I'm finding that it is a little more challenging. Obviously, once the breeze starts up, it wants to take this thing. Not a whole lot of hand shock. It does jump at the shot, as you would expect a lighter bow to do. But I don't feel any hand shock. PSE has done a really exceptional job with this carbon setup. And the Evo cams are performing really well. Quite pleasantly surprised with this bow. So it is shootable, it'll work.
Okay, next up, this is our newest addition, well, my newest addition to the 80-pound setups. This is the PSE Evo Nxt 33. This year, PSE's gotten a lot of attention, got a lot of publicity since John Dudley switched over from Hoyt to PSE. And Josh and I wanted to figure out if this would live up to the hype. I want to tell you that this bow, when I weighed it, came in at 7 pounds, just like the other two carbon bows. That's one thing that I haven't mentioned before yet. No, Josh talked about a little bit about tunability. The tunability with Matthews, everybody knows the top hats. Well, I guess not everybody knows, but the top hats, the shimming system for the Matthews is pretty solid. The yoke tuning system for the Hoyts is really responsive. It seems to, you can pretty much dial in your bows and leave your arrows on center shot. Tunability with this particular bow, and maybe I don't know if it's specific to the Evo cam system, it's tunable and it's responsive, but it's a little bit harder to shim the cams. The cam shimming system is spacers, and you have to have them lined up just perfectly. And Josh and I both found that it was easier to shim the cams if you unloaded the limbs. So you pretty much have to almost unstring your bow, at least from one side. So there's a little bit more work into tuning this bow if you want to shim it, but it's doable, and it's once it's tuned, it seems to stay put. So I'll say that about this. Now, this pull was pulling 81.7 pounds. So right in there with 80 pounds, if you want to call it anything different. It's like I said, it's current configuration, and maybe these stabilizers are a little bit lighter than the other ones. This bow came in at 7 pounds. Even being an aluminum bow, weighed just as much as are my carbon setups. So that's another thing to consider when you're going to get a bow, whether it be 70, 80, 60 pounds. Do you want to spend that much more money for a carbon bow if the reasons why you get a carbon bow is to save weight? Then maybe not. So the pull with this Evo cam, now I said that Hoyt RX1 Ultra was probably one of the easiest. I want to say that this Evo cam is the easiest 80-pound pull that I have. And that's the way that it turns over. It seems like that it's easy, it's a consistent pull throughout the entire draw cycle. And being a 33-inch axle to axle bow, it holds pretty steady. I like the back wall with this bow. There's a little bit of hand shock on the shot. Just a little bit. You can feel, but that's almost true with all of the 80-pound setups compared to like a 70-pound or a 60-pound bow. That energy being dispersed through the entire riser is definitely going to hit your hand, but it is not bad at all. Like I said, once you get back to that back wall with this bow, it just sits in there. And if you could see my target that I'm shooting at, I guess I could have put footage in. I'm like, these are driving holes right through the center of this thing. I really like the way that this thing shoots. So it might be a pretty good contender for the backwoods this this fall. We'll see. Get rid of that. And like you'll see when I roll in the footage of the chrono shots, it's no slouch on the speeds. And like I said, pay attention to the arrow weights that we're shooting, and the pin gaps. I've got a 5-pin slider on here, black gold 5-pin slider, and the pins are and I've got it set 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and there's not a whole lot of pin gap in there. And I'm shooting a 575 grain arrow. So that's PSE Evo Nxt 33. All
right, Hoyt RX1 Ultra, coming in at 7 pounds with the sight and stabilizers that I have on it. For a carbon bow, maybe not super light, but it does give you that ability to kind of put the weight where you want it. As far as draw cycle, I've always liked this one. I've shot this bow probably more than, not probably, quite a bit more than the other ones. And it to me, it doesn't feel like an 80-pound pull. It's a little stiff at first, but it eases all the way back into the wall. The back wall. The back wall for Hoyt has always been a little spongy, characteristics of their, their cable stops, which may or may not be a good thing. Some people don't like it. Some people want a very stiff back wall. In my opinion, and that's subjective. So if you're using a resistance style release like the Silverback, this is a Silverback Plus. A little softer back wall is actually a little bit easier to shoot, in my experience. So it dumps right in nice and smooth. The hold is nice with this bow. I've got the way I've got it set up. Like I said, if you have a lighter to start with platform, it's easier to put the weight where you want it. The hold is nice. It's not the best hold there is out there, but it works. And as far as shootability, tunability, I would much rather tune a yoke system than anything else at this point. I haven't worked with any of the newer stuff that you don't need a press for, but this is far easier than pulling the axle, moving top hats and spacers, that kind of stuff. The yokes are easier to work with, and they're very responsive. Whenever you make an adjustment, you definitely see it after you do it. And shootability, it's got a nice brace height. String angle's good with the 35 axle. There you have it.
Okay, there you have it. Heavy arrows with an 80-pound bow are not a problem. All of the criticism or drawbacks to shooting a heavy arrow are pretty well solved by increasing your draw weight to 80 pounds. Which bow would we take? Time for the bro picks. Well, Ken's pick is the VXR 33, aka Travertix, however you want to say it. The Traverse with the switch weight cams. And he explains very well in his review of that bow why he picked that one. We both took that one on our last hunt, and it was our pet project. Definitely something that we were kind of proud of, excited about, and it performed very well. And it's definitely a great option. But for me, I chose the PSE Stealth Mach 1. It gives an all-around good setup for me. Light, performed very well, as you could see from the spreadsheet, and and it's light. That's really why I wanted to get a hold of this bow and see what it was all about. But yeah, for this review, that's the bow I would pick. Is it the bow that I would necessarily take into the woods next season? I don't know. There's a lot of time between now and then. Who knows what bow I could come across in the meantime? You'll have to stay tuned and see. Also, our next video, one of our next videos coming up, we're going to be doing an arrow build. We're going to go over some of the different brands of arrows, some of the different component systems, and kind of go through some of our experiences that we've had with different arrows and different arrow setups. So that's going to be a good one. I think we spend a lot of time, and guys in general, bow hunters in general, spend a lot of time talking about bows for good reason. But I think what gets skipped over and missed a lot is the actual arrow that comes in contact with the animal. This is probably more important than your bow. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned.